Hello students, in this class we can see about excretion. What is excretion? The biological process involved in the removal of harmful metabolic waste produced in the body is called excretion. So what is excretion? The biological process involved in the removal of harmful metabolic waste produced from our body is called excretion. Okay, due to metabolic activities, various nitrogenous waste materials are produced in the organism's body. What is metabolism? The sum total of all the chemical reactions that take place in an organism's body is said to be as metabolism. So many chemical reactions takes place inside each organism's body, isn't it? So all that chemical reactions are together said to be as metabolic reactions. Okay. Due to metabolic activities, various nitrogenous waste materials will be produced in the organism's body. Even in our body also various nitrogenous waste materials are produced. What is that nitrogenous waste material? These are waste materials containing nitrogen. For example, urea is a nitrogenous waste material. So these waste materials should be removed. Not only urea is produced in our body or in some organism's body, various other waste materials are also produced. See, for example, if you take the plants, as a result of photosynthesis, oxygen is one of the byproduct, isn't it? So that oxygen will be released out. So removal of that oxygen also is a part of excretion in the case of plants when they perform photosynthesis. Okay, same way when organisms respire, whether it is plant or animal, they use oxygen and they produce carbon dioxide in their body, and this carbon dioxide also will be released out because carbon dioxide will be the waste product formed as a result of respiration. So it will be released out. In plants through the stomata it will be released out, and in animals from the lungs it will be released out. Okay, so lungs act as a excretory organ also, but actually lung is the respiratory organ, but it can also act as what? Excretory organ in the elimination of carbon dioxide. Okay, children. Along with the gases, some amount of water is also eliminated or excreted out through our lungs. See, when we respire, some amount of water vapor will also be released, isn't it? So we can say some amount of water is also excreted out or released out through the lungs. Okay. Our skin also helps in excretion. Our skin contains two glands, that is the sweat gland. Here you can see the sweat gland, this is the sweat gland, and here you can see the sebaceous gland, that is the oil gland. Okay, so they also help in excretion of certain substances. The sweat gland produces the secretion called sweat, which is a watery fluid, and it contains sodium chloride, some amount of urea and lactic acid. Okay, so when it releases the sweat, it leads to cooling effect on the body surface. Okay, then the sebaceous gland or the oil gland can eliminate or excrete some substances like sterols, hydrocarbons and waxes, and the secretion of the sebaceous gland is called sebum. Okay, so the sebaceous gland or the oil gland helps in the removal of certain substances like sterols, hydrocarbons and waxes. Okay, liver is the largest gland present in our body, isn't it? This liver eliminates bile containing substance like bilirubin, biliverdin. Bilirubin and biliverdin are bile pigments. Okay. In addition to these pigments, it also eliminates cholesterol, degraded steroid hormones, vitamins and drugs. Okay. Different organisms use different organs for excreting their waste materials. For example, if you take the unicellular organism, they used to eliminate the waste by the process of simple diffusion through the body surface, because their body is formed of a single cell, isn't it? So they used to eliminate the waste material by the process of simple diffusion through their body surface. Okay. And if you take earthworm, nephridia is their excretory organ. Okay. And in cockroach we can say Malpighian tubules are the excretory organs. Okay. And prawns have antennal glands or green glands as their excretory organ. Okay. Now we can see the human excretory system. The excretory system of human beings include a pair of kidneys, a pair of ureters, a urinary bladder and a urethra. The kidneys are bean shaped. Here you can see the kidneys. They are somewhat bean shaped, isn't it? They are bean shaped and they are situated in the abdomen, one on either side of the backbone. Okay. And from the kidney arises the tubular structure, the duct, which is called the ureter. From each kidney you can see a duct arises and it is called the ureter, and it will be opening into a bladder, into a sac-like structure which is called the urinary bladder. Okay. So the urine which is produced in the kidney will be transported by the ureter to the urinary bladder. This urinary bladder is a sac-like structure which can store the urine temporarily. Okay. And when the urinary bladder is filled, the urine can be eliminated out through the next part, that is the urethra. Okay. So these are the parts of the human excretory system. Now we can see how urine is produced. Urine is produced by the filtering of the waste materials which are present in the blood. Okay, the waste materials produced as a result of metabolic activities like urea and uric acid will be released into the blood. So in the kidney, this blood will be filtered so that it can remove all the waste materials which are present in the blood. Okay, the nitrogenous waste like urea, uric acid and the water, excess water if present, will be removed by the kidneys. Okay. Now, inside this kidney, there is the basic filtration unit called the nephron. So, the picture what you are seeing is the nephron. So, what is nephron? It is the basic filtration unit of a kidney. About 1 million nephrons are present in each kidneys. Okay. Now, when we see the structure of the nephron, it consists of a cup-shaped structure called the Bowman's capsule. Here you can see the cup-shaped structure. This is called the Bowman's capsule. Okay. And inside that capsule you can see here this red colored blood vessel is entering inside and through the other side it is coming out, isn't it? So that is the capillaries which is formed from the afferent arteriole. So the afferent arteriole will be entering inside this cup-shaped structure and it forms, suppose you assume like this, the cup-shaped structure is there. Okay. And this is the afferent arteriole which enters inside this cup-shaped structure and it leaves out. Okay. So it forms a cluster of capillaries inside and then it again comes out. The part of the blood vessel which enters inside this Bowman's capsule, that is this part, is called the afferent arteriole, and the part of the arteriole which leaves out the Bowman's capsule is called the efferent arteriole. Okay. So inside this Bowman's capsule it forms a tuft of capillaries. A cluster of capillaries are formed and these capillaries are called as glomerulus. What is it called? It is called the glomerulus. Okay. Now this Bowman's capsule is followed by, here you can see a highly coiled tubular structure. Okay, that is called what? The proximal convoluted tubule. Okay, the highly coiled tubule which is present next to the Bowman's capsule is called the proximal convoluted tubule, and it will be followed as a U-shaped tube like this. Okay, and that U-shaped structure is called the Henle's loop. Okay, what is this U-shaped tube called? It is called the Henle's loop. Okay, it is the Henle's loop. Then it moves upward. Again it will be forming a coiled structure which is called the distal convoluted tubule, and then it joins with the collecting duct. Okay, so this is the collecting duct. Okay, so this is about the structure of nephron. Is it clear? Once again, I will tell the structure of the nephron. It consists of a cup-shaped structure called the Bowman's capsule, and inside that Bowman's capsule, a tuft of capillary is present which is called the glomerulus. So, through this glomerulus only filtration of blood occurs. Okay, then it is followed by the coiled tubular part called the proximal convoluted tubule, and then the U-shaped structure called the Henle's loop. Again a tubular structure called the distal convoluted tubule which joins with the collecting duct. Okay, so this is about the structure of nephron. Okay, now we can see how the urine is formed. So when the blood is passing through this arteriole, it enters inside the Bowman's capsule where the glomerulus is present, isn't it? So when the blood flows through the glomerulus, the blood will be filtered. So all the materials which are present in the blood will be filtered, which contains, the filtrate contains glucose, amino acids, salts and water. So all these will be present in the filtrate which is formed in the Bowman's capsule. Okay. So the blood is filtered and that filtrate will be having glucose, amino acids, salts, water, etc. So all these are essential materials, isn't it? So most of these materials will be reabsorbed. Okay. So what happens when the filtrate passes through this tubular portion of the nephron? Most of the nutrients like glucose, amino acids will be reabsorbed. Okay. And remaining waste materials which are present in that filtrate will be eliminated out along with some amount of water. Okay. Now, the amount of water reabsorbed will depend on how much excess water is there in our body. Okay, the amount of water which is reabsorbed will be depending on how much water is there in our body. If our body is having more amount of water, then less amount of water will be reabsorbed and more water can be eliminated out. On the other hand, if our body is having less amount of water, then more amount of water will be reabsorbed and less amount of water will be eliminated or excreted out. Okay, children? So, the amount of water reabsorbed depends on how much excess water is there in our body. Okay? Now, after passing through all this tubular portion, all the nutrients will be absorbed and the required amount of water will also be reabsorbed, and the remaining water along with the excretory waste material, that is the urea or uric acid and some amount of salt, will be collected by the collecting duct and it releases it into the kidney. From the kidney through the ureter, it will be passed on to the urinary bladder where it will be stored. The urinary bladder can expand, okay, so that more amount of urine can be stored in that, and when the urge to pass the urine occurs, then it can be eliminated out through the urethra. Okay, the urinary bladder is a muscular organ, so it can relax without bursting. It can expand without bursting. Okay, and then when it is filled, urge for urination occurs and the urine can be eliminated out through the urethra. Is it clear, children? This is how the urine is formed and it is eliminated out. Okay. Now we can see the excretion in plants. plants also follow certain strategies to eliminate the waste materials. Okay, now we can see what are the waste which are produced and how it is eliminated in plants. See, in plants, as a result of photosynthesis, oxygen is produced, isn't it? So that oxygen itself will act as a waste material and it can be released out through the stomata. Same way, as a result of respiration, carbon dioxide will be produced by the plants, isn't it? This carbon dioxide also will be eliminated through the stomata. Okay, then if excess water is present in the plant, that excess water will be released out by the process of transpiration. What is transpiration? It is the loss of water in the form of water vapor through the stomata of leaf is said to be as transpiration. Okay, so the excess water which is present in the plant can also be eliminated by the process of transpiration. Okay, then some of the waste materials will be deposited in the dead cells. See, plants, as you know, contains more amount of dead cells in them, isn't it? So the waste materials which are present in the plants or which are produced in the plants can be deposited in the dead cells. Okay, can be stored in the dead cells and then it can be released out. Okay, for example, if it is stored in the leaves, the dead leaves, after few days, what happens to that leaf? It will fall down, isn't it? So when it falls down, the waste will also be removed. Okay, now waste products can also be stored in vacuoles. As you know, the plant cell contains large vacuoles, isn't it? So the waste material can be stored in the vacuoles also. Okay, I told you earlier, some of the waste are stored in the dead cells, even in the leaves also, isn't it? Same way, waste material can be stored in the leaves also. When more waste materials are stored there, and when the leaves mature and when the leaves die off, what will happen? It will be getting detached from the plant and it falls down, isn't it? So thus the waste can be removed. Okay, and some of the waste materials can be stored as resins and gums. You might have seen in some of the plants some gum-like structures, substances will be released, isn't it? These are released as a waste product. Okay, gums and resins are released as a waste products by some of the plants. Okay, then these waste can also be stored in old xylem. Okay, some of these waste can also be stored in old xylem. Old xylem will be dead cells. Okay, when the xylem becomes older, it matures and becomes older, it will be a dead cell. So in that dead cell, the waste can be stored. Okay, then some of the waste materials can be directly released into the soil surrounding them. The place where the plant is present, in the surrounding of that plant in the soil, the waste can be released out. Okay, so these are some of the ways by which excretion occurs in plants. Is it clear, children? So that's all about this chapter.